All right, welcome to another video. Okay, so far we've started from the very basics of Excel, exploring the interface, knowing where to go. We use the magic wand. If you remember the magic wand, if you don't, check out the playlist. Magic wand, whereby you can just shake and say some what's the word? Some words, and then you just get what you want. But no, you're not saying anything. Excel is not witchcraft or wizardry. So you just enter the search bar, get something. It's part of the playlist video. If you didn't see that, you're able to check it out. From there, we move into basic operations. We explore the ribbons first, then move into basic operations. Then we start looking at functions. We looked at handling errors and a lot of things. We have looked at a lot of things, and today we will proceed in this Excel series by looking at data cleaning and preparation. This is a very important concept that you should know as an Excel user. Notice I didn't just say as a data analyst. Of course, required fundamental for data analyst, but as an Excel user as well, it is something you should know. Do you find data cleaning boring and tiring? Yeah, I know how that can be. I mean, it's a very tedious, slow, boring, and tiring process. Is it? Okay, you answer that. Anyway, that is about to change. If that's how you feel whenever you're cleaning data or preparing data for analysis, it is about to change now. One thing is sure, data cleaning and preparation is fundamental to a good analysis. Because of that, we will be learning how to handle data properly. How we can go from a messy, a chaotic data to an analysis ready data. So if that was you, if it feels boring and tiring whenever you're trying to clean data, make sure you stick to the end of this video because that is about to change now. And just like I mentioned a few seconds ago, one sure thing is bad data will always lead to wrong insight. Let me just cite an example. For example, you have duplicates in your record. Let's say what was it called, employees data, and you have duplicates records. So far, the company had 12 employees, but because of duplicates, it was concluded that they had 25 employees. Or okay, maybe that's an exaggerated number. Because of the duplicates, it was concluded that they have 15 employees. I mean, that is a wrong analysis on its own. And think of yourself as the business owner, as the stakeholder, and you're getting a report. You is the employer or a stakeholder in a business. You found out that, oh, you had more than what you think you did because it's wrong. And when you verified on your hand, you notice that no, we just have 12 employees. But the report that came in says you have 15 employees. I mean, you cannot, it will be hard to continue with the person depending on who you are or how your business is. I mean, numbers are very important. So these are mistakes you as a data analyst now or Excel user, so taking the stakeholders and business owners out of the picture, will not want to make. Since this is a mistake you don't want to make, it's important to pay attention to details. It's important to pay attention to details. You can know the formulas, the functions, but if you have a messy data, you are headed for a wrong analysis. You're bound to do a poor job, and that can cause, you know what that can cause, right? So the reality of the world of data is data will be messy, inconsistent, incomplete, inaccurate. That is the real world data. That is what it feels like. It's not a feeling, that is what it is like. One truth you should know is this. One truth you should know. what you see in tutorials are not what, no, you're watching a YouTube video, we're using, or you see them using very clean, perfect, structured data. No, that's not what you're always getting the reward. Nah. So if that's the way your mind has been programmed for a very long time based on what you have been feeding on, it's time to change how you think. Because in the real world, uh, data is subject to human errors, systems inaccuracy or inconsistent. I mean, system glitches happen and constraints. So, because of this, it is rare to have perfectly clean data in the real world of analytics. So, that's something to keep in mind, right? Data is subject to human error, system, and constraints. So, side examples, something you can relate to. It's you made a transaction, there are glitches that happen. Okay, you were first, okay, your card was debited, they didn't receive the money, all those kind of glitches. They're just system glitches. Or you made payments, you're still waiting, or they didn't receive your payment, they could not, the handshake that was needed to confirm you've made payments was not there. All of those things are system glitches. Or let's talk about it in the human error way. This is where we'll talk about data entry, right? This is where we'll talk about data entry and all of that. So they are just important things that we cannot overlook. The real world data is an imagination, okay? It's a fallacy. Am I invalidating that you can get a clean data? No. In some cases, yes, you may get a clean, raw, straightforward, structured data, but you must know that in the real world of analytics, real data are barely, barely realistic. Okay. So perfectly clean data are barely realistic. And this is one major reason we'll be looking at quite a good number of things. We'll consider some pro tips. Just make sure you stick to the end of the video. Do not skip, do not forward it, do not go 10 minutes ahead or put it on two times playback speed and all of that. Okay. So make sure you stick around. All right. One thing I want to mention before we dive or jump into it is before before you carry out analysis, you should have, let's say, check boxes. You should have check boxes. Your data, you must make sure your data is accurate, complete, consistent, and structured. Excel works okay. Excel works with structured data. You can see rows and columns. It's a spreadsheet, rows and columns, structured data. So make sure your data is well structured, it's accurate, it's complete, it's consistent. These are data quality dimensions, right? So, however, when you are working with the data, for cleaning, for preparing, and all of this, you will need to rely on the business rule of the organization you're working with, right? You don't just make assumptions that this is how it should be, this is how it should be. There are reasons why data might be a certain way. Okay, keep that in mind, that there are reasons data could be in a certain way. There are reasons data could be in a certain way. So it's important for you as a data analyst, as an Excel user, as someone who is working on the data, to ask questions. Ask the right questions. Questions are important. Questions are very important. Asking questions does not make you a fool as a data analyst. It actually shows that you know what you're doing. So ask the right questions. Ask the right questions. Meet with the stakeholders or whoever is in charge. Maybe your manager, your employer, whoever gave you access to the data. Is probably might not necessarily be the data custodian, but you can find out who the data custodian is, or who understands what is going on, who knows the business rule, or whoever it is, or maybe you're working with a business analyst. Any of those things, right? You should be able to get details on why data is where it is. So make sure that before you carry out analysis, you must have checked your boxes. Okay, have I checked this? Yeah, is it this? Is it this? Then you check all those boxes and then boom, you're good to go ahead. All right, let's jump into it without further ado. I'll just scroll up. I have the data here already. Okay, so this is what we have, and this is what we're working with today. And I mean, you can see how it looks like. One thing you can say is, one thing you know is, in most of the video, we have ensured to implement what you likely see in the real world. In the real world, right? You don't just get all clean or structured data, right? So if you've missed on any of the previous video, do want to go back to it. Functions right from the beginning, they are all very insightful, and you don't want to miss any of the videos. Okay, so this is what we have, and I mean, the first thing we can do is maybe just expand the rows, automatically adjust the rows and columns. It is important and wise to say, for example, in this case, context matters. In this case, to have the original copy of the file, and then work in another file. So if anything at all, maybe for quality check, for whatever it is, you can always fall back to the original data set. So it's good to have a copy of your original database. So we'll be taking this code, this data, I mean, then we'll take it to our prepping and cleaning. It's blank, nothing is there. Then we'll put it this way. All right. So we have the data to work with, and we can either hide this or leave it there. So, okay, let's come here. Here we are. And we'll automatically expand this. Do not forget, bad data, but wrong insight. So it's important to go through all of these checks before we jump into it. Make sure you stick to the very end. You have some pro tips I'll be sharing along the way, or maybe at the end of the video. And at the end of the video, you might just have it, in a single, maybe giant text box or typed out for you. So stick around. The first thing is, how do we easily figure out what is going on with our data? How do we easily figure out what is going on with our data? First things first, know your data. That's the least you could do. Know your data. It's just if you meet someone online, someone you've never seen physically, someone you don't know, just randomly bumping them online. Different ways you can get to know them. It's either you've been following them for a while, based on their content, you're able to say, oh, this is this kind of person. But if it's the very first time you're having contact with them, the only place you can get to know something about them is what? In their profile. You will check out their profile. That's it. That's it. Just the profile tells you something about them. Just the profile. Right? So, how do you get to know your data? Data profile. Okay, based on the example, there's no profile somewhere for this data. There might be, there might not be. For example, let's say you're working with a data set from Cargo. It's a website where you have free public data set to use. Some people who upload data set there, they give description, they tell you a little about the data. You see some basic summaries, min max, STD, the number of rows, columns, and all of those things. They give you an insight into the data, what each column means, and all of that. Right? That is what I mean. Data profiling. Right? You can have a data dictionary that defines what the headers mean. How many rows do you have? How many columns? That's the shape of your data. How many missing values? All those things. These are important checks. So you might want to take that down. There are important checks to take note of them. For columns you don't understand, or probably the title, you can ask questions. So what does this mean? Let's take a look at this data. We have ID of who. The data here says master data. Is it customer master data? Is it sales rep master data? Is it sales master data? So IDs here are IDs of who? IDs of the customer or the buyers, or customers are the buyers, or the sellers. We have a column sales, so we can tell it's a sales data. So who are these people? Are they the sales rep, or are they the buyers? Are they our customers? Regions, okay, probably where the sales was made or sales were made. Okay, the amounts and the date when this transaction happened. Then the category, probably the category of it's a product category that's where they bought something from. Then we have their phone numbers, probably the phone numbers of our customers, right? Well, in this case, this is a PII, right? This is a PII, and it will they might not necessarily give us this because if we are working for them, we definitely do not need the numbers of their customers as data analysts. So they are to protect that. They're not meant to give us that. Don't worry, this is not a real data. These are just playing all the possible scenarios, things you should check out for you as a person. You might be leading a team tomorrow, who knows? So these are things, and you might be the data custodian so that your whoever is giving out data does not overshare, all these possible case scenarios. Like I said, this is not a scripted video, like I've always said. I mean, there is not a scripted video, there was no rehearsal. As it comes, we just pick one or two things, mention them, and then we'll move on. And that's why I would advise you not to move too fast, because definitely you learn a thing or two. Even if you have a knowledge of Excel before, you have been into data analysis for quite some time, so you used to be able to learn a thing or two. If I'm too fast, because I feel maybe I'm speaking too fast. If I'm too fast, do well to use the playback speed button to reduce the speed so you can make it slower at your pace. Right. So back to the phone number thing. Since this is not a real data, and for the purpose of demonstration, this were included, so we might just keep it, right? Might just keep it. Even the names of our customers or whoever they are, or if it's the sales rep, fine, or the customers. These are PIIs as well, personally identifiable information. Any data you can use to identify a real person, they should not be publicly available, except it's the kind that can be publicly available. Yeah, think about that for a minute. Okay, so we might want to keep this in mind. These are just some data security tips or data, governance and all of that. So we have the names, so just take this. Now, if this were to be real data, I would not assume that these are our customers. I would rather ask, right? That's the best thing to do. That's the right thing to do. It's not necessarily about the best thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Right? I think when we bring it best, will be okay. You have other ways to do that, then you go for the best. But in this way, this is the right way to do it, right? So that you do it rightly or wrongly. So we ask. So, but in this case, I will be the business owner, so I'm telling you that is the customer data. So, yes, these are our customers. The IDs, the customers, the regions where the sales happen, the amounts, we necessarily don't know what the purchase, but we know that this is the category, what the purchase belong to, the dates. We have the dates, we have the phone numbers, right? So how do we isolate problem? This data is small, no doubt. This is a small data. Let me jump into our normal view. I think that's 120 or 150. Let's see 200. Okay, that's too. I don't know if you feel like it wants to jump inside or it wants to jump out. It wants to jump outside the screen. Okay, 150 is better. 150 is better. So, yeah, we have our IDs, names, West, region, sales, date, category, phone. So, what are the things we likely want to do? Or perhaps the question should be, what are the ways to easily find out if your data is messy? Do not forget, the first thing you should do is to know your data. It's good when you know your data. Okay, well, I start doing that. The first thing you should do is to know your data. It's a very good thing. Know your data. That means you can have a new tab. Okay, create a new tab. Do some data profiling yourself. The number of rows, the number of columns, right? Okay, I think it's now normal. All right, we're good. So do a data profile quickly. How do you know the number of rows and columns? You click on the column header. You get some summary below here. Pay attention to my cursor. You get the summary below here. So we have 12 columns minus the header, that's 11, right? So if you want to see if there were sales, sum of sales now, it's giving us a sum. Of course, this will not be accurate because we have text in there, right? It's giving us the average. What else? Names. It gives us a count of 10. That's including the header. So if you take out the header, that's 9. It doesn't count blank. Okay. So you can easily know if there's nothing missing in the ID, and we have 12. And we have this, and we have 10. So you can know that two values are missing in the next column. I'm just giving you tips and hints, pro tips where you can use to get some data profile. Yeah, are there better ways to do this? No doubts. For example, if you get into Power Query, right? But we've not done that. So using Power Query, we have a view tab where we can use to get some quick profile about our data. So but a quick way, maybe you're working on a small data, you don't want to get into all the Power Query thing. You still want to get your work done fast, or you're not so comfortable with Power Query yet, so you want to get your work done fast. So these are quick ways to do them. Maybe you've not paid attention to that before, but you get some good summaries down here. Okay, so if you do this way, it counts the columns for you. So A to G is 7, so you have 7. So you have 7 columns, 12 rows, excluding the header, 11 rows. So the shape of the data will be 11 by 7. Okay, so check everything that way, everything. So once you know a little about your data, you know what is missing, what is not missing, good. Then you can move on to the next thing, how to find problems, like whatever is wrong with your data and how to fix them. The best way will always be to isolate. You find, isolate, and fix. You find, you isolate, you fix. Okay, now what are the easy ways to be able to find, isolate, and fix? First thing, let's add our filter button to this data. Depending on how comfortable you work, you might decide to put this data in a table first for some auto features, which we've always mentioned in the previous videos, and you can decide to work with it raw this way. So let's turn on our filter first. Ctrl Shift L. Okay, so that can turn on your filters for you. Control plus Shift plus letter L, L for lion. Okay, or you can just highlight your header, go to your home, and you come to this place waiting for this guy. Not sure why that's slowing down. So you click on filter, then you click on filter here, sort on filter, then you click on filter. You can see Control Shift L. That's how I know it. It's not magic. So some of those things tell you the shortcuts you can use to turn them on and turn them off. All right.